Don't you hate wrestling with predictability? The garbage man, the sexy boy, boring ass TV? How did I get to work in here? Somebody tell me, please. The WWF is confusing to me. With Vince as mean as you've ever seen. I told old Patterson I'm done here in June. When a sudden voice inside me whispered, Vinny, don't sell your dream so soon. And everywhere I look, there's a Ted with a hand to hold on to. And everywhere I look, there's a place and a promotion who needs you. And it's there you'll book when you're lost out there and you're all alone. And WCW's waiting to carry you home. It's there you'll book. And it's there I'll book. A doobity-ba-ba-ba, headed to Atlanta and listen to this podcast. It's all right, even though it fucking makes fun of everything I've ever done. Backbone Wrestling Network. Welcome back to episode 18. This podcast is legal, Logan, of the Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? I'm Scott Shiflett. I've already shouted him out as always. My co-host, Logan Crossland. Logjam, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I am doing well. We are recording on a Thursday, so just happy that Friday is tomorrow. Then we have a long weekend. Thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King, for the Monday off. I appreciate it. Yeah, happy to be here as always. Well, maybe I'm not happy the reason I had to watch to get here, but I am happy to be here with you at least.
Yeah, Logan begrudgingly watched this. We were discussing earlier, because I watched these episodes in 45-minute increments because I think I would lose my mind. I was explaining that to Logan, and he goes, I just have to watch it in one sitting. I can't do this over multiple days. Logan, are you going to spend MLK Day just catching up on wrestling, getting all ready for your 25 million podcast?
Yeah, I actually do have a podcast that night, so I will be recording that night, but I will probably watch at least one of the episodes for said pod that morning or afternoon or something like that. So, yeah. That means I won't have to
hardest working man in the podcast business.
That means I won't have to prep for it Saturday or Sunday, so it at least opens those 2 days up.
There you go. Hopefully, by the time our listeners are hearing this, my Commanders have shocked the world, so we'll see. This may age poorly or may age like a fine wine. But too much talking about current events, Logan. Let's travel back almost 26 years ago now to the Go Home show for Starrcade, which,
oh boy,
as we'll discuss, hasn't been the best built Starrcade. So we kick off the December 13th, 1999 Nitro. The show starts with Jeff Jarrett beating the piss out of someone. I couldn't tell who it was at first until it's revealed to be Chris Benoit. Benoit starts fighting. They're fighting in the backstage area. Benoit starts fighting back and Irish whips Jeff Jarrett into the cardboard of doom. Logan, you work, you see a bunch of cardboard. Do you stack the cardboard like that so you can Irish whip a coworker?
I wish I could, because that would be nice sometimes, but no, I do not. I'm usually breaking it down to make sure it's like super flat. So no, I'm not doing that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was stacked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So it's weird that we're seeing that as we kick off, and we'll see more as the night goes on. But it just we're gonna have to watch this Thunder because I'm kind of interested to see how we get with some matches at Starrcade. Yes, even though this is the go home show, guys. So we're in Jambalaya Jake's territory. We're in Nolans tonight, New Orleans. Yeah, I actually did say Nolans in the notes, but I wasn't sure if that's like one of those things like when someone comes to Nashville and says Nash Vegas and I want to hang them by their cowboy boots. Yeah, we don't know. And then instead of kicking the show off with a promo, Logan, we get a match, and it's with
a hell of a match.
The people that the crowd does not give a fuck about. The first one out is Kafka, as Logan told me, and that's the artist formerly known as Prince Iakela with Paisley. I will say, Logan, the entrance is it's not bad. It's very sports entertainment-y, but it's like it sort of sounds like a Prince song when he comes out. Purple Rain's falling. We saw Kafka's re-debut at Thunder the previous week where he did the J.O.B. So they come down and Paisley gets on the mic and she doesn't start off us keep saying Queen Booker, but she says, so Daddy, everyone wants to know what you have to say. And before Kafka can say anything, someone loudly screams out, screw you. And it was caught on the mic, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, Kafka just says yellow and just like, you're terrible. And then Maestro's music starts with Symphony. And there he's playing the piano. It's coming down. And I just made me realize that we have two musical gimmicks, Logan, which I didn't think of when we saw Kafka last Thursday, but seeing them here together, I'm just like, that's interesting. So as they're coming down and walking their way to the ring, Tony says he got bubbles. He got bubbles because like the bubbles were being blown. Brain with a hell of a line says her name is Symphony, alluding that she's a stripper. So I just love that. So match one, it's Kafka versus Maestro. Both have valets. The crowd shits on us immediately. Tony says this is because of ratings, and I'm like, they're going in the toilet right now. So Kafka kicks Maestro, and then Maestro throws Kafka out the ring. They both start fighting outside. Prince slams Maestro outside, then both get back in the ring, and Maestro hits a nice spine buster. I will say I've been kind of impressed with Maestro in ring. Like, he's passable with what we've seen. I've seen more Maestro matches than I've ever seen before in my life. But Maestro hits a spine buster. Kafka then gets up and hits him with a neck breaker and then grabs both legs and headbutts Maestro's nuts. And then Symphony and Paisley, which were on the same side of the ring, both get up on the apron on the hard camera side. And for some reason, both men walk to the other valet and they both get slapped. But I guess Paisley's slap is a little bit harder because Prince rolls up Maestro and it's over. Pretty brutal match. And then Jarrett runs down with two guitars and takes out both men with guitar shots. So we're 5 minutes into the show and we already got two guitar shots, guys. That's not. We still got some shit for tonight. The crowd loves Jarrett coming out and hitting them. So did I. I don't understand how he's a bad guy in the situation until he grabs the mic. So Jarrett gets on the mic and calls out Benoit and says, you want to step in the same ring as the Chosen One. As a warm-up, Jarrett says it'll be Benoit versus him in a bunkhouse brawl. Keep in mind, we are getting a bunkhouse brawl in 6 days with Dustin Rhodes versus Jeff Jarrett. And Jarrett says he's going to make an example out of Benoit, his music hits. And then they go to Tony and Bobby per usual. Tony says Jarrett has made his presence felt. He introduces him and Bobby. Then they run down tonight, which they do have some graphics for the matches tonight, Logan. They use them sparingly. But it's like coming up next. But it's a Bunkhouse Brawl, which is Jeff Jarrett versus Chris Benoit, Tank Abbott versus Ming, Sid versus Dr. Death, Sting and DDP versus David Flair and Total Package in a no DQ match. Bobby says that's a train wreck waiting to happen. Tony says the Outsiders are here as well. And Tony says the tag champs are here, Bret and Goldberg. He could have just said that Bret was the fucking world champ. So as we run through all that, a sort of a stacked Nitro tonight. Not as stacked as the Thunder we had last week, Logan, but this weird. It's not making me want to spend the $30 to buy the Starrcade if it was $19.99 for these matches. We're already seeing a bunkhouse brawl. I'll get to some of my other issues with the matches as we go through the show. But yeah, how you feeling with that weird first match, which ended basically with bullshit per usual, and just these weird hodgepodge like Tank Abbott and Ming. Like Ming's already seeing like his push go away. He had that little mini push, and it's all gone. But what'd you think of everything?
Yeah, I like the brawl to open the show between Jarrett and Benoit. It was very random, and then the whole night with Jarrett.
They're not even facing each other.
I know, exactly.
On Sunday.
Or will they? I'm just kidding. But yeah, they're not involved at all. And I'm guessing that's kind of why they did this. But we'll obviously talk about that once we get to Starrcade. But yeah, we were open with old Taff Cappy and Maestro. My first note is they give one of these fools a promo before the match, and then the other fool fucking special entrance where he comes down from the fucking ceiling playing his piano with his woman next to him. Yeah, like you said, Maestro hasn't been bad. But this is a ridiculous match. The fact that they got special treatment in their entrances may be the most absurd wrapped up in the first match. Also, a candidate for most absurd is old Taff Gappy's like 5 o'clock shadow that's like drawn on, which is absolutely ridiculous looking. But yeah, it was good to see Jeff Jarrett come out and nail both of them with guitar shots. It's just something I never thought I would say, but definitely an interesting card ahead. I love that they already have a graphic for Benoit versus Jarrett, even though he only threw a challenge and Benoit hasn't accepted, or there's no way the powers that be would have heard that in enough time to be like, oh yeah, get a graphic made. But so obviously it was going to happen irregardless, but yeah, just really, really crammed in first few minutes for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot crammed in. We're only like 10 minutes in the show, guys, if that. So after that, we see Bret walking backstage, and he's carrying both the world title and the WCW Tag Team title, which is a pretty cool visual. And then we cut to Nash calling out to Scott, telling him to come on. And then we cut again to Evan flirting with who we think is Medusa, but it's Spice. Medusa calls out for him. Medusa sees Evan flirting with Spice, and then she attacks Spice, and then the ref breaks it up. So instead of like doing this like breakup angle after the pay-per-view and letting it build up, or have some other hints, we speed through like 3 or 4 weeks of bullshit in 32 seconds, Logan. I know this isn't our favorite feud, but it's just a symptom of shitty Russo booking that we'll have to see the rest of the night. And it's an encapsulation of it. So after that, not even at a commercial break, guys, out comes Bret Hart holding both belts. He says he's got plenty of gold in WCW. Bret said he believes what he says about being the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. He said he came to the WCW. He knew he would have to step in the ring with Bill Goldberg. Bret said he has infinite respect. This made me laugh, Logan. He says he has infinite respect for Goldberg, not now, and says when he won the title, he would give Goldberg the shot at Starrcade. Bret said he will be the first one looking forward to Goldberg because he has something to prove. He's going to say one thing. He's going to say one thing to his tag partner: "You're a great wrestler, but when the smoke settles at Starrcade, you aren't going to beat me." Says he's going to make a guarantee at Starrcade. Bill Goldberg, I will be standing there with my hand raised, and right on cue, Goldberg's music hits, and we see him walking to the ring with the tag title. Goldberg comes out and gets on the mic. He says, "Unfortunately for you, matches aren't won on confidence. Matches are won by beating your opponent." Goldberg says, as of late, the belt has looked good around his waist. Goldberg says, at Starrcade, you have to beat me man to man. Goldberg says, that ain't going to happen, and says, you're next. This brings out the Wolfpack. Out comes Hall and Nash. Hall says, hey, yo, before you two heroes get into a pinch fight, you have something that belongs to us, because everyone knows me and Kev, we are it. Because when you mess with the outsiders, you mess with the bomb, baby. Nash gets on the mic and says, you got something that belongs to the outsiders down there. And Hall goes, Down there, and they point to their dicks, but they're talking about the tag titles this time. Nash says, if y'all can kiss and make up, if y'all can do that and put the tag belts on the line tonight. Nash says, what do you say? And says, we can do it the hard way, or we could do it the easy way and take them. And Bret says, you want it, you got it. Nash starts walking to the ring and says, wait, I got to finish my coffee. And then they leave. I'm going to pause right there, Logan. And this brings up another symptom. So we have this main event match between these two big baby faces at Starrcade, Goldberg and Bret, and there's like negative heat for this match. I mean, revisionist history now would be like Bret hates Goldberg for what happens, but there's no issues with here. It's like a respect match, but they haven't even hammered out its respect. This is the only time they sort of talked about it. It'd be different if, like, when they were going for the tag titles last week, if there was like, you know, Goldberg speared Bret by accident or something, you know, but it's none of that. So it's like they're fighting for the world title, which, you know, Bret's bringing bringing legitimacy back to it because he's been a fighting champion, but there's no issue with that. It's like, you know, say if we decided like we were going to call out Rap, Russo's the Aggressive Pod, and I was like, Logan, you're going to have to pick a side, and you have to pick a side tomorrow on YouTube roulette. And it's like, what are we doing? And it's like, there's no heat for this. Yes, they're doing the respect thing, but like, I mean, they sort of started it now, but you can't start it 6 days. And this is like, and Tony, and this is a revisionist history. A lot of people say Halloween Havoc was WCW's most important pay-per-view. Tony is slobbing on Starrcade's knob, saying how important it is. He brings up all Sting's accomplishments later in the night at Starrcade, brings up how important Starrcade is just for WCW as a whole, how it's the granddaddy of them all. And there's been no build for any of these matches. Like, out of the matches we know, the best built one is probably Hall and Benoit. And they seem to be pivoting away from that tonight.
Yeah.
Like,
at least
Nash and Sid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think everything's kind of been in existence for, you know, since at least Mayhem, but they're not necessarily building it every week or like focusing on anything specific every week. And it's just kind of, oh, well, we'll focus on this week and do it like really hard. And then this next week and do it, you know, really hard or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, that's the problem is like suddenly Hart and Goldberg like respect each other, and they've never been presented that way pre Mayhem. Because I mean, it all started because Goldberg kind of got screwed out of the tournament and all that stuff, and I mean, it has been going on for a while, but I mean, before like 6 or 8 weeks ago, they didn't respect each other, but now they're like best buddies and they're tag team champions, and Bret Hart loves him and, you know, respects the shit out of him and whatever. When like, you know, like a year ago they were, you know, he did the whole steel plate in the shirt thing where he spears him and knocks his own self out or whatever. So it's just, yeah, it's been very microwaved and yeah, you know, I mean, they've been around each other every week and kind of involved with the outsiders and stuff like that. And even they, you know, I feel like they focus some on Sid and Nash, but like this whole show, I feel like they didn't even really interact that much. So, yeah, the build has not been great, but that is, you know, prime Russo stuff. He tries to fit as much into these TV shows as possible, tell as many stories as he can, and then, you know, the pay-per-view just kind of exists, and he'll use it however he pleases, I guess.
How does this sound? I just thought of this in my head. Instead of having Bret and Goldberg at Starrcade, have Bret and Goldberg team up versus the Outsiders as the main event, with the added caveat of being a tag title match, and then you can just transition Jeff to Benoit, since that seems pretty hot. Dustin, you don't really care about. You can just have Sid beat him. You know, I know they're quote unquote baby faces, but have Sid just squash him, and away you go. And you don't get the Bret injury. And, you know, but
yeah, do that.
I think that makes
good. Sorry.
No, that makes more storyline sense with what you've been saying. Like, the Outsiders have been dogging Goldberg and Bret at every turn. I mean, more Goldberg than Bret, as we'll see, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could even do like you could do Outsiders versus Nash and Hall, and it could be for like all the belts, and whoever pins whoever gets whatever belt, or if Hall and Nash win, they get the world title and the tag titles, and if Goldberg and Hart win, then Goldberg becomes the U.S. champion and Hart just keeps the world title or whatever. So they could do a champion of champions kind of match, and kind of main event with that, because Nash and Hall have been a thorn in pretty much everybody's side. So you could even throw Jarrett and Sid in there. I mean, like, just do like a 6-man like fuck fest kind of thing, and just some belts are on the line, or it could be, you could work it somehow.
Yeah. I mean, what me and you just said is better than what we get, because like this Goldberg and Bret match is like when you put a hot pocket in the microwave. Looks hot on the inside, cold as shit on. It looks hot on the outside, cold as shit on the inside. I meant to talk about that later, but I just wanted to get to it now because it was fresh in my mind. But like, it'd be different. Like, spoiler alert, when we get to the main event tonight, if like Goldberg or Bret run into each other, but it's just dumb shit that happens. They don't even push each other after the match or anything. Like, we'll get to that, but like it's just like insane. Like, you have like Goldberg, who the crowd still chants. I don't know if they're doing like they're adding the sweetener, but like the crowd still chants for him, and just nothing. But I could talk about this for like 2 more hours, Logan, and we would still have 2 hours 45 minutes of Nitro to talk about. Yeah. So for some reason, we go back to Medusa and Mean Gene. Gene said, "Did you overreact to Evan and Spice?" And while he's talking to Medusa, he's staring at her boobs. Medusa said, "I know you love my 2 big, beautiful blue eyes, but I'm a wrestle tonight. I've had it." And she walks off. And then we see my favorite wrestler, sarcasm, Roddy Piper, showing up in ref gear, and he's talking like a pirate and saying, "Arr, the pirates that be are trying to humiliate me," fucking over and over. And like, it's just dumb, Logan. Then we have a commercial break, and we see Total Package show up, and Terry Taylor says, "You've got good news and bad news." And Lex says, "Give me the good news." And Terry laughs and says, "I got none, but the bad news is you're facing Sting and DDP tonight, and your tag partner is David Flair." And Lex says, "That nitwit David Flair? You've got to be kidding me." Lex says, "Ratings, okay," and asks where David is. And then we see a package being delivered to David Flair. So I'm going to stop there. So much shit happening right there. Like, this whole thing with Medusa, like we said, is at warp speed. Roddy Piper is all over the show tonight, and he's literally all over the place with, I guess he was like doing fucking bumps like it was the 80s, Logan, when we weren't seeing him on screen. And the package being delivered to David Flair, which is from his secret admirer, who we might have saw last Nitro, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I love how Gene says, "Earlier tonight we saw, something with like Spice and Evan flirting, like it wasn't like 5 minutes ago, like it was like 2 hours ago or something like that." He's like, "Earlier tonight." Like, yeah, Gene, that was like just a minute ago. So like, it's not like it was super far away. But yeah, Piper comes in yelling at himself, basically. He had somebody with him. I almost wondered if that was his son, but I think his son might have been a little younger than that guy was, that was walking behind him. And then I love how sarcastic Terry Taylor was, and Total Package Lex Luger was kind of a smart ass back too. So that was a more entertaining segment than it probably should have been. And then the poor guy that delivered the package to David Flair got very much yelled at. And he just grabs the package and walks back into the locker room with it, like caressing it. So definitely a cavalcade of scenes there to kind of lead to our next match, or quote match, I should say.
Yeah, it's something. But that guy with Piper is like his bag boy. It's like the guy who carries his bags, because we've seen him in previous episodes as well. Like his manservant or something. It's what Johnny Fairplay was as well from TNA. And also Survivor. So match 2, we have Medusa, and I put in parentheses, her music sounds like porn music, versus Spice, and her music sounds like S Club 7, Logan. Don't know if you know. They're like a British pop group.
Mm-hmm.
So like Spice comes out, she's looking pretty hachi-machi, as you'd say. Medusa tackles Spice and beats her down to start, and then drags Spice by her hair. Evan comes down and gets in the ring. The ref says, "Get out of the ring." Medusa tells Evan to hit her. Medusa then pushes Spice down when Evan won't. Then she pushes Evan. Spice runs into Medusa and knocks Medusa into Evan. Then Spice incapacitates Medusa, like she was hit by when Hulk Hogan hit the Giant at Hog Wild '96, and he was down for 10 minutes with the world title. Medusa's knocked out into the ropes. The ref and Spice is fully in the ropes. The ref counts 3. It is a god awful match. Spice has as much to do in the ring as I should be in the ring, which is not at all, and it's just horrible. And then after the match, to show how upset Medusa is, she tries to seduce Evan and then hits him with a German suplex with a bridge, and then the ring. So I guess they decided there was no heat just because they've been fucking. She fucked for the cruiserweight title shot, so they decided to throw this wrench in. But like I said, it's 3 or 4 weeks of storyline in 15 minutes. After that, we go backstage to the Powers That Be crew. The Powers That Be asked Kurt if he's ready for his match, and he says yes. Powers That Be asked if Shane if the remote control's in place, and Shane says yes. Rhonda Singh then comes in and asks for her next assignment. And Powers That Be says, "I don't talk to people like you at your level." He then tells her to get an agent. Powers That Be tells Shane to get Piper. And then we see a hype video for Revolution in the Duggan match, which I thought would be good for the rest of the show. But we don't see any other matches that are for Starrcade hype like this. So before we get to Mean Gene, Logan, what did you think of your favorite women's wrestler, Medusa versus Spice?
I thought it was trash, just like all the rest of her matches. It's barely a match, even, honestly. Like you said, Evan kind of comes in and distracts her a little bit, and Spice does a running nothing, and apparently it knocks Medusa out for enough minutes for her to completely pin her in the ropes. Just no effort shown to abide by any rules or anything like that, because that is the breakiest rope break in the history of rope breaks, if there ever was one.
Correct.
They just wanted to get in and out of there as quickly as possible with this one, but I don't know why she bridged on the German after she hit it in after the match, as to imply that she was going to pin him, like they were wrestling and not just fighting. But yeah, she's terrible. She will continue to be terrible. But yeah, just a waste of a segment. But yeah, I love that Hacksaw randomly got a package. Obviously his match with the Revolution and his partners that will be named at the pay-per-view, I'm guessing. But yeah, very interesting. Very interesting that got a promo package. But yeah, Rhonda Singh continues to get disrespected as well. So that's good to see.
Had no idea Rhonda Singh was still in the company for this long. They fired Mona apparently, so she's gone. Great work.
They fired the good women's wrestler they had.
Yeah, so great work, Russo. You fucking moron. So we got Mean Gene in the ring, and he calls out Jim Duggan. Jim Duggan comes down, and he's dressed in the same janitor outfit that we've seen. Looks like it still has mustard stains on it, but they probably cleaned it, and they was like, "Oh shit, we gotta make it look like trash." Threw water on it. Tony brings up the remote control that they were talking about earlier. Mean Gene goes over the stip for the match. If Duggan wins, the Revolution has to do his janitorial duties for 30 days. But Duggan says, "I don't want to talk about that." He says, "Stuff's been on my mind. Not the janitor work, but the lack of respect for his country." He said when he came back, he thanked the Lord for sparing his life. He said he understood this. If Duggan has to get off his deathbed, he will defend the flag of the United States. He says he will not quit. He will not waver. He will attack. When he thinks about the race, he thinks about the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice. He stands taller. He says Revolution and Powers That Be. Hacksaw Jim Duggan will take it no longer, then leads a USA chant. The power goes out, and it's flickering and staticky again. And Duggan gets taken out. I guess it's the Mystery Man did it again. Tony points to the Powers That Be. We go backstage, and Powers That Be says nothing like the power of remote control. So that's the Powers That Be beating them down. I guess maybe they had someone place to be this mystery person, but decided to drop it. We'll have to see if it comes up again, Logan. So then Piper is brought in and says he has the final say. Power of the Beast says that he will ref a match between Buff and Kurt tonight. Piper is still saying that he has the final say. Powers of the Beast says this is a test for you to do the right thing. Piper gets the point and says, do the right stuff. So before we get to this Buff backstage segment, which I wrote down verbatim, Logan, what did you think of this Duggan weird, like blowing off the match, just talking about how he respecting the United States? He doesn't talk about who his mystery partners are or anything, and then he gets his ass beat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly to just kind of establish him as, he's the patriot of the USA, and he's going to defend them against this new country or sect of whatever you want to call the revolution. They're trying to be their own nation or whatever. So he's trying to defend against the enemy that is that. But yeah, I thought it was weird that he didn't even at least imply who maybe his tag team partners are going to be. Maybe not directly say it, but be like, blah, blah, blah. I knew them back in my varsity days or something like that. And then the, Piper segment's just Piper overacting like always. But yeah, I mean, that it seems like the Revolution versus Hacksaw and Mystery partners is one of the more better built shows, or better built matches on the show, I should say. But yeah, Piper, there's no way he's going to actually follow what Russo wants him to do. So he will completely overshadow two talents in this next match that we'll talk about.
Yeah, he makes it all about him. So we see Buff walking backstage, and he's talking like a moronic Dr. Seuss. I had to watch this 4 times, Logan, so you all are going to bear with me for this. He says, I'm buff, I'm tough, I'm the stuff, and the girls can't get enough. I need my hat, my shades, and I'm going to show Henning that I'm too tough and I'm buff. And yeah, and we go to commercial break for that. And yeah, that was that. I can see why he's no longer on TV. He fucking sucks. We see Luger looking for David Flair backstage. Luger says, where's this nitwit? Piper's music hits and he comes out. This is match 3. Kurt Hennig versus Buff with special ref Roddy Piper. Buff's out first, and out comes Kurt. Tony says Buff could be walking into a trap. Bobby saying you can't trust Piper. Kurt finally gets in the ring, and Piper on the mic says, center of the ring, I'm going to do it the right way. I want a winner and a loser. You mess up, I'm going to get on you. And says, ring the bell. From there, we get a collar and elbow tie-up. Buff with an arm drag, and then he poses. And then he does a hip toss to Kurt and poses again. We get another collar and elbow tie-up. Kurt hits him with the knee, and then is chopping the shit out of Buff around the ring. Buff's able to get an Irish whip reversal and then a slam. This gets 2. Kurt argues with Piper about it being a fast count. Off of this, Piper gets a roll-up, and we gets 2. And then out comes Buzzkill and Panda Buzzkill, and we don't see what's happening in the match. But when we come back, Kurt and Buff are in the corner, and Kurt punches Buff, but then Piper breaks them up. Kurt starts chopping Buff again and then starts choking him. Piper counts to 3. And then Kurt rolls Buff in the middle of the ring and chops him and hits a snapmare. And then Kurt goes to pin Buff, and Piper does the slow count. Kurt looks at Piper and then starts punching Buff. Kurt is choking Buff on the ropes, and Piper breaks it up. Kurt goes back to attacking Buff. Buff gets an elbow, then a clothesline, then a neck breaker, and this gets 2. Buff slams Kurt, and then Buff eats Kurt's knees on a dive. Kurt's punching Buff. Piper breaks it up again, and then he breaks it up another time. They start punching, and then Piper just punches Kurt, and Buff pins Kurt, and Piper counts quick, and it's over. And we see that Creative Control is in the aisle, and Piper is screaming, "Do the right thing!" And just like you said, completely overshadowed. Piper is making it all about him. You must think it's 1986 or something. I mean, Kurt. It's not like Kurt and Buff are Kurt was good in his time and Buff's Buff, but I could give 2 shits about this fucking ref sticking it to him, sticking it to powers that be. I would have Piper trying to rally WCW instead of being the main thorn, being too cool for fucking school. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cringeworthy. I mean, he just he's past his expiration date overall, but I mean, it's just he tries to be too much and do too much, and they use him too much. He's on like 6 times every Nitro, it seems like. So he's in like 5 backstage segments. He's usually involved in a match. Sometimes he refs a match and wrestles a match, like he did last week. So it's just they're using a guy that's he was entertaining for a time. That time was 13 years before this, probably. Maybe you could probably give him a little bit past that as well, but yeah, he's just past any value that they could possibly use from him. And with what's about to happen to the company and all the guys that go out with injuries and stuff like that, they need depth, and they don't need depth that involves Roddy Piper being a featured part of television. So yeah, just a disaster.
And then, like, I think he disappears after Starrcade. I don't know. Well, this is going to be all new for everyone involved, Logan.
Mm-hmm.
So we then go backstage and we see Luger finding David Flair's locker room. Luger opens the door and just hears David singing, I guess, to the stuffed toy that he got. Spoiler alert. And then we see Jarrett bringing the plunder to the ring and Benoit carrying a ladder. We get a commercial break. Jarrett's music hits and he decides to drop the plunder, and he comes out carrying a cowbell, a guitar, and a bar chair. Match 4, Bunkhouse Brawl, Jeff Jarrett versus Chris Benoit. They're both like a street fight. That's how they're dressed up. Benoit comes out with a ladder. Jarrett runs down the aisleway and hits Benoit with the bar stool. Jarrett throws Benoit on the guardrail. Jarrett hits Benoit with the bar stool again. Jarrett goes and grabs the cowbell with the rope attached to it and chokes Jarrett with it. They battle to the stage. Benoit ducked the cowbell shot and starts beating down Jarrett. He chokes Jarrett with a cowbell and throws him into the guardrail. Benoit hits Jarrett with the bar stool. So they're back in the aisleway. Benoit drags Jarrett to the ring and he grabs the ladder. Benoit throws Jarrett in the ring and hits a beautiful snap suplex. Jarrett then hits a backbreaker and this gets 2. Jarrett Irish whips Benoit chest first into the turnbuckle and it hits a clothesline, which I always love that combination. Like Bret does this a lot where like it's the chest first in the turnbuckle and then he hits like he rebounds off and gets hit with the clothesline. Benoit then ducks a lariat and hits one of his own. Benoit tries to put the ladder in the ring, but Jarrett baseball slides the ladder into Benoit's face. Jarrett gets the ladder and Benoit's in the ring. Jarrett sets the ladder in the corner, then Irish whip Benoit into the ladder. Jarrett tried again, but Benoit reversed it. Benoit then throws Jarrett onto the ladder. Benoit grabs the bull rope and hits Jarrett with it. Benoit picks up the ladder and sets it up. Benoit was standing on the rope and Jarrett grabbed the rope and yanked him down. I thought that was very good how he was able to get like tangled up and make it look like it just happened, but it was obviously a planned spot. I thought that was nice. And then Jarrett tries to dive off the ladder, but Benoit like hit him in the nuts with it, which with this punch. And I thought that was good. And then Benoit went up on the ladder, but Jarrett catches him and puts the cowbell around his neck and throws him off the ladder. Dustin Rhodes comes in and peppers Jarrett with punches in the Rhodes elbow, then goes to hit Shattered Dreams, but for some reason the ref's like, this is a bridge too far. Dustin's arguing with the ref, and Jarrett hits Dustin with the guitar shot number 3, and Jarrett went down with like the guitar shot as well, like they're both on the ground. Benoit goes to climb the ladder and is about to dive onto Jarrett, but Jarrett like because Dustin was starting to get up, but Jarrett pushes Dustin onto the ladder, and Benoit, who was on top of the ladder, and this ladder was wobbly as fuck. Benoit takes a hell of a bump off this ladder. And then Jarrett pins Benoit, and it's over. Logan, I'm going to let you tell me your thoughts on this match.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a nice little fight. It was a kind of match where Jarrett kind of thrives, I would say. I'm kind of looking forward to him taking on Dustin in this kind of match at Starrcade. Yeah, that bump that he takes off the top of the ladder is absolutely disgusting. He doesn't brace himself whatsoever. It feels like he just completely flattens himself. But yeah, I mean, they keep putting Jarrett in these situations where I think he can thrive. I'm kind of, I won't say looking forward to, but I'm kind of interested to see once we get to that point, if they stop putting him in these kind of brawl kind of matches and throw him in kind of wrestling matches where he has to try and wrestle the guys and not have these kind of brawls that I feel like he's pretty good at. So I don't know if there's a point or a switch flipped, because I've actually surprisingly enjoyed Jarrett so far, because I would have come into this pod thinking that probably wouldn't be the case. But yeah, I mean, as far as the little time that it was given, obviously not too much time is given to a lot of these matches, but that plus maybe some of the interference that happened with Dustin. I'm obviously just kind of trying to push along the fact that they have a match coming up at Starrcade, but I thought the bump was, like I said, nasty at the end that Benoit takes to kind of lose. I'm assuming he actually really got the wind knocked out of him, because the bump he took was just absolutely gross. But yeah, it was good to kind of get Dustin involved to continue to push that forward. But obviously, Benoit and Jarrett will also somewhat be intertwined in a way, somehow going forward, or at Starrcade. We'll see. I mean, at the current time, Benoit versus Hall is still the match that we're going to see. So we'll see if maybe. I don't know if we'll get an injury or something like that, or there'll be somebody taken out backstage or something like that before that match. But as far as we know, Benoit and Hall will be facing each other for the U.S. title, and then that Jarrett versus Rhodes match will happen. That Jarrett and Rhodes match will happen and be a bunkhouse brawl. And I'm actually looking forward to that one. That's one I'm kind of interested in. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully Jarrett will continue to kind of impress and be good in these little brawls that they keep putting him in, but we'll see.
Yeah. And like Dustin, like I legit sometimes forget he's in the company until he shows up.
Yeah. He just kind of pops in when it, like at least once a show for like 2 minutes, and then he just doesn't show up the rest of the show. So
yeah. And Jarrett, like I know people get shit on him because like what happens in 2000, he has been pretty damn good, like, and entertaining when he comes down. Like, yes, the guitar thing, but like it's even one of our things. But like
but that's even
like
fun.
entertaining.
I
like,
feel like that's like
he could brain Maestro and fucking Tafka forever and put the man in every Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see when the switch flips, if it does for us going through this, because I assume he'll get really obnoxious and annoying at some point.
I think it might be when the company has to be like put around him completely, because right now he's one of like the main players in it, and he's not like the only one. But like when you don't have like a Bret or a Goldberg or something like that, when he's like the main one, because like him and Benoit, like I even read one of the observers, and Russo's plan was to build 2000 around Benoit and Jarrett, which we see now with like, I guess he was going to make them their like Triple H and Rock, like just with them like starting in the mid card and then going up to the main event. And like me and you, Logan, we've had this discussion on this podcast, and we've had like these discussions offline where it's like WCW 2000 is interesting if he isn't removed from power, if the Revolution never leaves, if Goldberg doesn't get hurt, and if Bret doesn't get destroyed, have his brain turned to mush. Yeah, so it's kind of heartbreaking, and as someone who grew up watching WCW and it's his favorite promotion, despite all his flaws, it's like it's hard. It truly is heartbreaking. Like if like I remember watching that Nitro when it got sold and feeling like a piece of my childhood. And then I got in an argument with my mom and little brother, and I had to go to bed early, and I missed the fucking last Nitro outside like the first, like the Flair promo where he challenged Sting. Yeah. So that's
crazy.
But
I mean, it really just flips on its head. Yeah. Come end of January or whenever Sold Out is, it's completely different after that. So we'll see how it kind of goes.
Yeah. And then what's going to happen when we reboot back up in April. So we'll get to that. But then we see Luger backstage with David Flair. He has a stuffed bear, and the bear's head's ripped off, as we discovered. Luger's trying to get over the match with David, but David's just giggling about the bear. And then we cut to a Porsche peeling in, and they were like, "Who the hell is that?" No one good. I mean, someone good, but this gimmick sucks. We have a commercial break. Piper has a bat, and he's talking to the Powers that Be. Powers that Be says he hates Piper. Piper says, "I hate you too." Powers that Be says, "This is a war you'll never win." The Parker goes to hit Piper with his chair, but Piper swings the bat to block it, and then swings the bat around, and people scatter. Piper threatens to beat the Powers that Be to death with a bat, but Henning shows up and hits Piper with a chair. And then this leads us to match 5, which is Tank Abbott versus Ming in a no-holds-barred match. No reason for this match to be no-holds-barred when I get to the ending. They get in the ring, and both men just trade strikes, and Abbott's just punching Ming, and then Ming's just like punching Abbott back, and they're rocking each other back and forth. Abbott picks up Ming and slams him and mounts him and starts like choking Ming with his knee. Ming rolls out of the ring, and Abbott follows him. Ming rocks Abbott with a punch, and like they just keep fighting each other. They keep throwing punches and go up the aisleway. Nick Patrick counts to 10, and it's over. They keep fighting up the aisleway. Both men are still standing. They fight it all the way to the back. And Logan, just so much bullshit there. Piper's still being Piper. There's no hold barred match that ends in a count out, which is news to me.
Our holds are barred except apparently fighting outside of the ring. So, because you apparently can still get counted out. That's supposed to kind of not be possible in a no holds barred match. But I digress. But just more Piper in the backstage. But I thought the Abbott Ming match was fine for what it was. You know, it was just a brawl. It was Tank's first match that I know of. Obviously, he may have had a match on Saturday night or something like that previously or whatever. But this is our first time seeing him. But he's a MMA fighter, so he's going to throw a bunch of strikes and stuff like that. So it was interesting enough to kind of see them battle back and forth and fight. And again, I think we had this either last week or 2 weeks ago with Stevie Ray and Perry, but they just kind of.
It was literally last episode.
It was last episode. Okay, they continue.
Last Thunder.
Yeah. So they'll do the exact same thing and battle throughout the night. Even though I think that actually started as not a match and ended up being a match, but this one starts as a match and kind of just continues. But yeah, I thought the brawl was just. It was solid, but two stupid endings to a match that probably shouldn't have existed and should have just been a fight that kind of started in the backstage and just continued throughout the night or something like that.
Yeah, it's just like, all right. It would be nice if this was the first time we saw it. I don't think we should have seen it with Stevie Ray and Perry Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. But and then we see Canyon get out of the Porsche that came in with his agent or lawyer. We go to commercial break. We see Piper again, and he's trying to get back in the Powers That Be office. He picks up the fire extinguisher, but the cop tells him to put it down. They take the fire extinguisher away, and he's led away with them, hopefully to be never returning. We see Abbott and Ming still fighting. The Revolution come out. Shane's in black fatigues, or the rest are in wrestling gear. Shane still has the brace on his arm. He's turned into fucking Shane Orton with this. But Shane gets on the mic and he says, "Cut the music." Says, "You stupid, moronic Americans, sit and shut your pee holes." He said he doesn't want to rant, rave, or scream, but that's what he's been doing. Shane says he knows he's right and you can't face facts. Shane says Duggan has to be out here talking about his kids, tells the crowd to shut up. Shane compares the Sunday to the other American fiasco of Vietnam. He says they will lose because they are divided. Shane says, "Revolution, there is no I, no we, just us, and we will be victorious." Dean says the truth is a hard pill to swallow, so swallow this. American sucks. Perry grabs the mic and Dean says, "We got heat." Perry said, "I know." Dean says, "We got heat tonight." Perry says, "I heard what the boys are saying in the back." And Dean says, "No, Harlem Heat." This leads to match 6, which is Harlem Heat and Midnight versus Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn in Asia. Shane is on commentary. The lights go out and Midnight hits the ring because it was just the Harlem Heat guys before. But Perry got confused with the lights being out and was fighting Dean, which I thought was funny. Harlem and Midnight clear the ring. Midnight and Dean start off, but she Irish whipped Dean in the corner and tags to Booker T immediately. Booker T hits Dean with forearms and then another forearm. Booker hits an elbow, but he hits a spinner Rudy and slams Dean. We get a tag to Stevie Ray, and Stevie hits a body slam and tags to Booker T. Dean charges Booker T in the corner, and Booker fights out, but Perry tags to Dean, while Dean had Booker T in a back suplex, which I thought was nice. Dean hits a clothesline, then puts a chin lock on Booker T. Booker fights out, but Perry's able to hit a T-bone suplex. We get a tag back to Dean, and he goes to clothesline Booker, but Booker hits the bookend on him. Booker tags to Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray tags right back to Booker T, and they double team Dean. Dean dodges a punch on Booker T and picks him up and drops him nut first on the rope. Asia goes to hold Booker T on the ropes, and Perry goes to hit a springboard clothesline, but Booker T slides off the ropes, and Perry takes out Asia, which I thought was a nice spot. Booker T tags to Stevie Ray. He takes out the Revolution with clotheslines. Stevie Ray hits a high knee like he's Triple H. This causes Shane to jump up on the apron, but Stevie Ray hits him. Perry and Stevie and Ray are fighting in the corner, and Midnight finally gets in the ring and punches Dean. And then she Irish whipped him and did a leapfrog, but like falls down on her knee. Like I really thought she tore everything in her knee, Logan. This made Dean run into Stevie Ray. For some reason, when Dean runs into Stevie Ray, Dean falls down and like is on his back. But then Stevie's backing up and he trips over Dean and he falls down and Dean rolls up Stevie for the win. Booker T checks on Midnight after the match and Stevie Ray is mad at them both for losing. Logan, that was like the most nonsensical thing because Dean took when he ran into Stevie Ray, he acted like he got hit with the title belt. And this was like a somewhat decent match. It would make more sense if Booker T and Midnight weren't in this stupid creative control match and Kurt match that they had paid very little attention to. Harlem Heat should be the special should be with Hacksaw because they've been involved with Revolution the past couple of weeks. But I mean, these matches are what you expect. Like Midnight, like she has a good look. She can't do shit in the ring. I love Perry Saturn. He's so athletic that I keep forgetting about. But yeah, just it is what it is, and looks like we already have Harlem Heat splitting up.
Yeah, as I say, these are the kind of matches that kind of make you interested to see if, like, obviously the most or all of the Revolution guys and Benoit and Guerrero end up going to WWE after Sold Out, but this makes you interested to see if like somebody like Perry had maybe stayed behind because I've really enjoyed him so far, and maybe if he shows some loyalty and stays behind, maybe he gets a push out of that and becomes a even bigger star because I just and he might not have obviously, but I think he's super talented. I don't know that he ever really had the promo skills to be like world champion level, but I think he could have been an upper mid carder that got some shots or something like that. Throughout the rest of his career, but I just don't think Vince ever really knew how to use him, and I don't know if he didn't like him or anything like that. But Perry's somebody that I would be interested to see maybe if he stayed behind, if he could have been used better by WCW than maybe he ever got used in WWF at the time. But yeah, Midnight, yeah, like you said, she's got a very impressive presence and kind of stature and build the way she's kind of built. But she doesn't have much talent. I would say of the untrained workers that they've put on TV, she's probably the best of the crappy that they've thrown out there.
Nitro Girls,
Nitro Girls, Oklahoma, the Jerry Only or whatever from the Misfits. But I thought this 6-man was solid for what it was. Yeah, very stupid ending, like you said. And yeah, Booker was worried about checking on Midnight, blowing out her knee rather than helping his brother. So Stevie's already kind of trying to see Booker in a light where he's not liking how he's turning out. So we'll see how quickly they go through that. But it's already seem like they're breaking up, even though they just got back together pretty much.
Yeah, like he came back from being suspended, and it's like, because Russo has to speak.
I love that. I love that before the match, Douglas was cutting the promo in like the Sub-Zero lighting from like Mortal Kombat with like the blue and the red and stuff like that. Looked like a fight or like a lighting out of a fight scene from Mortal Kombat or something.
Is left over from our boy Buzz Stearns,
Oh,
Coach Buzz
Glacier.
Stearns Glacier character.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just I could rebook this card talking with you right now and it'd be better than what we got. Just from a storyline perspective. Um, so we see Tenay with Total Package and David Flair. David says, Tenay, I told you not to touch them, and walks off. Luger says, you see what I'm working with? Luger says that an injunction has been filed and Elizabeth will not be walking out with Sting tonight. Luger says Sting is on his own. Then you see Piper with the regular shirt. He was wearing a ref shirt earlier, and he's throwing a chair around. Piper says he's not letting someone out of the arena. I rewound it 3 times. I couldn't figure out who the fuck he was talking about. So they can get chairs and beat each other. I had no idea if he was talking about the powers that be or Henning. Both make sense. We see Rhonda walk up to the guy who is with Canyon, and she says, Mr. Biggs, this is news to me. They've never mentioned his name yet. I need an agent. And this Mr. Biggs says, I only represent the best Hollywood has to offer. She says, I can dance. And Mr. Big walks away. And then Chavo walks up and offers to sell her some clothes that she can dance in, as we'll see later tonight. Logan, do you want to tell the listeners who Mr. Biggs is?
So that's going to be Clarence Mason of 1996 WWF fame that kind of helped James E. Cornette kind of manage his camp that he had at one point. So he kind of like took Bulldog and Owen away from Cornette at one point in like 96, 97 WWF. And then he kind of went with the Nation for a little bit, but Mr. B will be Mr. Biggs here going forward. But yeah, he was Clarence Mason in the WWF.
They never say his name tonight, guys. So that's why I was like, I know who he was. I just wanted Logan to tell everyone. It was just they never said his name. Tony even says later tonight, I have no idea what his name is. So we then see Tank Abbott and Ming still fighting. We have a commercial break. And then we see Paul Orndorff show up. Paul says he was on the power plant, but the powers that be said they want to talk to him. Mike Graham points him in the direction of the office. And then we see the last 3 Nitro girls are dancing. One's still Stacy Keibler. One is Tigress, and one's Fire. Rhonda Singh shows up, starts dancing with them, and then Rhonda then pushes the Nitro girls down. The other girls try to attack her, but she just pushes them down again, and that's the end of the segment. We then see more training with Brian Knobbs and Finley. Knobbs shows up running out of breath, and Finley pushes him down. Finley makes Knobbs do sit-ups. Knobbs tries to quit, but Finley doesn't allow him. And then we see Norman walking to the block in full New Orleans Saints uniform. He has a Ricky Williams jersey on to have a match versus Jerry Flynn. This is match 7. It's on the block. Norman Smiley versus Jerry Flynn. They have a new filter now, Logan, for the block. I don't know why they have it, but they have a new filter. The Flynn starts beating Norman, but he tries to leave and he can't. Flynn stays hitting Norman with punches and kicks. Norman is screaming the whole time. Norman actually gets a kick in, and then Jerry just goes back to beating his ass. And then we see Ming and Abbott make their way into the block as well. And then Abbott and Flynn start fighting, and Ming and Norman Smiley start fighting, and Norman runs out. The match literally just ends. We then see Paul Orndorff, the powers that be. The powers that be says that Paul's responsible for training Midnight, and Paul's like, yeah, she's a great prospect. And powers that be says Midnight has been a thorn in his side. For this, powers that be fire Paul. Paul sold out. He said he sold out more arenas than everyone in this room. Paul says, you can take these 2 lips and kiss my ass. Creative Control grabs him, and Powers that Be says that Creative Control will face Paul Orndorff tonight. Logan, while I catch a breath right here, why don't you tell me all about this incredible block match with the filter, how we see Paul Orndorff introduced, and he's fired within 13 seconds of seeing him, which I'm sure most of the crowd had no idea who the fuck he was. Russo's firing on all cylinders tonight.
Yeah, you covered quite a bit there. But yeah, it was funny kind of seeing Chavo use his selling wiles to kind of sell Rhonda some clothes to go dance with the Nitro girls. But yeah, like you said, we continue to see Ming and Tank kind of battle throughout the arena, and obviously they get involved in the block match that we'll see, or that you talked about. Paul Orndorff arrives. I wonder if he was pissed that the Maestro stole his theme music earlier, because he has the
Mr. Wonderful.
the Mr. Wonderful music without the words, obviously. So I'm pretty sure he was pissed about that. Ronda dancing was awful. I thought Finley training Knobs was hilarious because Knobs was just whining and complaining the whole time. I did like the filter for the block match. It kind of gave it like a video game kind of feel. I feel like a little bit like obviously an old video game from the 90s, but yeah, obviously Tank and Ming battle into there, and they all end up kind of brawling with each other, so it kind of cancels the match out. And then yeah, we see Orndorff for 15 seconds, like you said a minute ago, and he gets fired for training Midnight too well. But then he gets a match, obviously, so. That'll be interesting to see because, yeah, another old fuck that they brought back to have a match instead of building the next generation of stars. So, whatever.
Why even do that, right? Why even do that? So coming back from the commercial break, we have Goldberg watching Nitro. Maybe he's watching Raw, depending on how this Nitro is going. We then see Sid working out with the kid who has Down syndrome. And this is very cool, Logan. I'm gonna tell the story after this. Tanae asked him about the Sunday match on Sunday and about this kid. Sid said he was going to bring his own coach tonight. It's Seth, and this guy actually I read this in Observer, Logan. He's Sid's neighbor, and
Oh, wow.
Sid loved him. Like he made him a part of his family. Like Sid was on Memphis TV in like 95, 96. Seth actually showed up and shot an angle with him, with being his manager and everything, and he ran some heels off. So this is on this show, which is full of cynicism and people being assholes. This is the most heartwarming shit. Because you can tell that the Seth is so excited to be there. He says his favorite wrestler is Sid. It's really heartwarming. Something I did not expect to see on the show with just the way everything was. And then I was like, fuck, I got to wait for this other shoe to drop. They're going to do something horrible to this kid, which thankfully they do not do.
Yeah, sure.
I was worried that was going to happen, Logan.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sid threatens Nash that Nash is going to see what he does to Dr. Death tonight. So this leads us to match 8. Dr. Death, who's lost a lot of steam, Logan. I guess people did not like that Oklahoma angle. With Oklahoma versus Sid with Seth. Dr. Death comes out, and Oklahoma gets on the mic and says, I got one thing to say. Not only is Mike Ditka from Oklahoma, he also wears women's dresses. Okay. Oklahoma said he talked to the powers that be, and this is now a suplex versus powerbomb match. So another worthless fucking gimmick match, Logan. Gimmick matches for gimmick match sake. Sid comes out with Seth. Sid puts Seth in a chair, and Dr. Death attacks him on the outside. He then throws him in the ring. Dr. Death chops Sid, and Oklahoma screams, chop, 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 which I thought was funny. Then says this is a slobber knocker. Dr. Death rammed Sid in the corner with shoulder blocks, punches, and kicks. Dr. Death went for a back suplex, but Sid stopped it because it's a suplex versus powerbomb match. He would have lost. Dr. Death got Sid up for a slam, but Sid was able to wriggle out of his hands and go to the corner. Oklahoma gets up and hands Dr. Death his boot, and Dr. Death hits Sid with the boot, and Sid goes down. This brings out Vampiro because, guys, they're having a match at Starrcade. Never would have guessed. And chases Oklahoma away. Oklahoma then runs into the ring, and Dr. Death clotheslines Vampiro, which was pretty sick. This allows Sid to punch Dr. Death and get him in position for a powerbomb, but Dr. Death flipped him over. Sid hits a big boot and is able to powerbomb Dr. Death, and this is over. Sid then chokeslams Oklahoma. Scott Hall and Nash come out. They beat down Sid. Nash actually gets Sid in position for the powerbomb, and he actually does it, which I'm shocked. It was impressive. The Outsiders stand tall, and we head to a commercial break. Logan, we can say how this doesn't mean anything, but Russo tries to get all the stuff in, even if you forget the matches are taking place, like Vampiro and Dr. Death, because it's not like they mentioned it on commentary or anything.
Yeah, none whatsoever for sure. But yeah, you mentioned that Dr. Death's kind of lost some steam, beating up cruiserweights and, rock and roll music artist, probably not going to get you two over. And feuding with Vampiro, who's also brand new and hasn't really done much to win over the crowd or anything like that. That didn't really build you too much steam. And I think he was cooked at this point. I think his WWF run was pretty obvious, or you could tell it on that as well. But yeah, I mean that one lost steam pretty much on arrival. And Oklahoma's kind of dropped pretty much everything other than obviously making fun of how JR commentates. He doesn't do the face anymore. He still wears the hat and all that, but he's basically just become Ed Ferrara in like a cowboy hat doing a JR voice impression on commentary. He didn't do any of the mannerisms or anything like that other than that. But the bringing in the kid with Downs, that's pretty cool. And even with you adding the backstory to it, that makes it even cooler that Sid would do that. Yeah, I was kind of afraid, especially with it being Oklahoma and Dr. Death involved in this next match. I figured they would maybe try to get the kid involved somehow, but I'm glad they didn't as well. But yeah, Vamp getting involved here. Obviously, he's got a match with Dr. Death. So it's good to see him get at least somewhat involved in this one. But it's good to see Sid finally get a win, even though it may have been kind of by nefarious means a little bit. But yeah, and good to see Oklahoma take a bump after the match. But the Outsiders,
for real.
The Outsiders continue to be a thorn in Sid's side, so they take him out after the match as well.
This would have been the perfect time for Benoit to come in and like chase off Hall, but we don't see it.
He's still trying to catch his breath.
I'm interested.
Ladder bump earlier.
That is 100% true. Logan, I'm really interested to see how we get to where we get with Starrcade with that. So we come back from commercial break. We see highlights of Nash powerbomb and Sid, which is really impressive because these are some big motherfuckers. So they show Sid being worked on by the doctors in the back. He may have a concussion. And I thought it was really adorable how Seth asked him if he was okay. And I guess Sid might have thought the camera was still on him, but he like shook his head yes, just to make sure Seth knew he was fine. It was very cute. So we're back to Tenay with the Outsiders are there. Tenay says that was uncalled for. Hall said he was talking trash. Nash says it was a preview for Starrcade. Nash says Bret and Goldberg, they got the Outsiders. Says it's a preview for Starrcade. Nash says Bret and Hart and Goldberg, you're both next. And like they both say you're next and mock Goldberg. Like, oh, you're next. Which I thought was funny. Guys, this is the start for hour 2 to 3. We're only on match 9. Spoiler alert. We end up with 14 matches tonight. So buckle up. So this is Total Package and David Flair versus Sting and DDP in a no DQ match. Total Package comes out first. David Flair comes down while Luger is posing and is like walking around Luger while he's posing. I thought was funny. DDP comes out next. And Logan, no mention of whatever happened with DDP and Buff from Thunder. Like nothing at all. Didn't talk about it in the Buff match. Isn't talked about here. What they talk about from Thunder is the Sting and DDP match where like DDP, Diamond Cutter, Sting, and when Luger interfered and took advantage. Sting comes out next. We got David holding the crowbar and the stuffed animal as the match starts. Luger takes the stuffed animal from David Flair and like puts it on the top rope, which I thought was funny. Sting beats down David and hits a Stinger splash. DDP goes to tag in Sting and Sting punches him. They start fighting. Luger is still holding the stuffed animal in the corner. Sting hits 2 Stinger splashes on DDP, who is his partner, and then a third. Luger finally gets tagged in by David Flair, and he throws the teddy bear in the crowd, so David Flair gets mad and leaves, which I thought was hilarious. Luger has the crowbar and beats down Sting. Luger goes to hit Sting again, but Liz comes down and takes the crowbar from him. Luger gets a chair and is about to brain Sting, who's laying down, but Liz shields Sting. Luger goes to hit Liz with the crowbar, but David Flair comes back and hits Luger with the crowbar, and he goes down. Liz puts Sting on Luger, and it's over. It's just an insane. That feels like a fever dream with what I just described, Logan. But it all happened, guys. What did you think of all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another sorry excuse for a match, I would say. Just fodder for partners turning on partners. These mismatched teams, and David Flair being in there with like 3 legends is absolutely absurd. Um, but yeah, I mean, just another sad use of all these really talented guys. Maybe not Luger as much in ring anymore, but um, Sting and DDP, I think, still have some stuff to give to the business. But it's kind of sad to see them used in something as little as this. And yeah, DDP didn't get too much focus on anything. Um, but I mean, obviously he's facing Flair at Starrcade in the crowbar match. Um, so we'll see how these individual matches happen out, but neither of those are something I'm super looking forward to unless David Flair gets brained and we never see him again.
I only wish we could never see David Flair again. Or really DDP for that matter. He's being real boring right now, so it's interesting how they're going to reheat him up, but we'll see. We go backstage and we see Ming walking backstage looking for Norman. We then get an interview with Canyon, and we see that his name is Chris Champagne Canyon, or CK. He's yeah, that's my favorite Canyon. We'll get him in like next July. He tells me for your people to contact my people. Then Rhonda Singh rolls up again and tries to get the manager to sign her again, and the manager tells security to get her to leave, which she does. Then Bam Bam shows up and tries to talk to Canyon, but manager gets in the way. Bam Bam puts his hand on the manager, and Canyon then beats him down. We have a commercial break. Bam Bam comes out and calls out Canyon, says, I don't know what happened to you in Hollywood, but he says he's not a sellout, and he says he's going to give Canyon an ass whooping. This leads us to match 10. It's Canyon versus Bam Bam Bigelow. And I didn't mention, but Canyon has 2 basically looks like strippers on his arm. And like they're walking to the ring together, and she almost I guess her heel got stuck in the grate, Logan, because she almost eats shit coming down. The agent gets on the mic, Mr. Biggs, as we discussed, and he says this is legal as advisor. And Bam Bam says, I didn't tell you to do anything. And then Bam Bam punches Canyon and hits him with a clothesline. Bam Bam slaps Canyon and kicks him, splash in the corner. Bam Bam's just beating him in the corner. Canyon reverses a hip toss and hits a swinging net breaker. But then it's caught on a middle rope, and Bam Bam hits an electric chair. Bam Bam drops Canyon with an elbow, and then is beating him against the ropes. Bam Bam yells at the agent. Bam Bam picks up Canyon and hits a Samoan drop. Bam Bam is beating Canyon and yells what had happened and hits him with a headbutt. Canyon ducks an elbow but dove into Bam Bam's arms for a press slam. Bam Bam went up top and headbutts Canyon in the nuts. Big gets on the apron and Bam Bam runs to get him off. He then walks into a flatliner, and that's the end of the match. Canyon literally got 0 offense. So this new push that you're doing for Canyon, you make him look like a fucking jobber. The dude whose nickname was the innovator of offense, which Tony brings up on commentary, and he gets literally the 2 moves in the whole fucking match. And this was basically a squash match. Like, am I supposed to care about Canyon now? He got lucky against Bam Bam Bigelow, who David Flair fucking beat down. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, this is so fucking stupid, Logan.
Yeah.
Like, he should have just had Canyon beat the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say they've gotten real used to during this period of bringing back new guys and like not presenting them strongly whatsoever. So like you're immediately not gonna care about them because obviously they don't care about them to a certain point. I really like Canyon. I think he's super underrated and probably didn't get the love he deserves for all that he did do throughout the years. But yeah, this isn't a very good start to what could be a push of some sort coming his way. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it ends up being okay. But yeah, not a good start. And another perfectly fine match. They wrestle all right together. They're buddies. I think they're kind of from the same area of the country. Growing
they were
up
in the triad together.
And then they were in the Jersey Triad together. So they're buddies, old buddies, but so obviously they have some chemistry. But Bigelow's kind of past his expiration date at this point. I think he can still mix it up a little bit, but I think he's probably had his best days past him a good bit. So perfectly fine match, but yeah, just another excuse to kind of present another guy poorly, but and have another fuck finish.
It's so dumb. So then we go backstage and we see Ming looking for Norman, but he just finds the football equipment. Then we see Norman hiding behind a column. And then we see our favorites, Logan, who have been sorely lacking recently.
Mm-hmm.
We see Johnny and Vito and say they're going to finish Disco off once and for all tonight. We have a commercial break, and we come back and we see Piper ranting again and saying he has a torn bicep, but he will beat Kurt with one hand in a chair match. Disco comes out, and we find out that this is a body bag match. Why not just make their tag team match Sunday a body bag match?
That would make too much sense, Schiff. Way too much.
Well, and I had no idea who was in the body bag match for the longest time. My notes originally had tag team match that's a body bag match until I was like, oh, this is just two people. But we'll get to that. Lash gets a pop as he's from New Orleans, and he says he's the Cajun sensation, which I knew that was a horrible accent. No, I don't even know why I tried it. He says Lash LaRue is back in the Bayou. Thanks. I had someone fucking say it in that copy. It says Lash LaRue is back in the Bayou. Vito and Johnny the Bull, we going to show you how we heat things up Cajun style. I'll have to ask what that is next time I see Jake. This brings out Vito and Johnny the Bull. And then we see how last week, how Lash and Disco got one over on Vito, Tony with Hard Feathering and Johnny the Bull, how they thought they were kidnapped, but they just hopped in the car and left. This leads us to match 11, which is Lash versus Vito in a body bag match, which I had no idea that was happening until 5 minutes beforehand, Logan. So Vito punches Lash and the match starts. He then punches him again, then hits a clothesline. Vito is raking Lash's eye in the corner. Lash is able to get a sunset flip, but gets two. Vito then does like a karate kick on Lash and then rakes his eyes again, which was very odd. Lash gets a kick, but Vito bites Lash's nose. Vito slams Lash and then misses a middle rope frog splash. Lash gets some punches in and rocks Vito and then hits him a clothesline. Lash gets a back body drop and hits an elbow in the corner. Vito tries to beg off, but Lash grabs his legs and slams him. Then Lash hits a side slam and a short leg drop. This gets a 2. Lash hits a suplex that goes to the middle rope and hits an axe handle. This gets a 2 as well. Johnny the Bull gets on the apron, but Disco pulls him off of the ring. We find out later that Disco has a chair and hit Johnny the Bull. This was not mentioned on commentary until after the fact, so I don't know if it happened or not. Lash Irish whips Vito onto the rope, and Disco's supposed to hit him with the chair, but it's like he missed, Logan. Like he was like a second behind or something, or a second ahead. Lashlin hits his special move, and this just gets one. Like Johnny just kicks out. I mean, Vito just kicks out, but then Lash puts Vito in the body bag. Like he kicks out at one, but doesn't get up to not get in the body bag, and it's over. Disco's in the Johnny the Bull attacks Disco. Then Johnny the Bull takes a sweet ass time getting in the ring, I guess, waiting for the bell to ring, and he beats down Lash. And then Johnny pulls Vito out of the body bag, and they beat down Lash. Johnny has a chain, and he's hitting Lash with the chain, and then Vito hits the implant DDT, and they put Lash in the body bag. And Tony says Lash is going to be dropped in the Mississippi River. This leads us to a commercial break, and then we see Vito and Johnny the Bull taking the body bag outside. They put the body bag down, and they both forget where the car is, and they go to look, and Lash is able to get out. And yeah, Logan, why don't we talk about what happened in that match?
I had to confirm with you that it was a body bag match when we got onto the StreamYard here. I'm not going to lie to you. So I didn't even know it was a body bag match until we got on, because they didn't really explain it that well, and just what it was, whatever. But I mean, I kind of assumed once it was kind of over, and he was in the body bag, and then Bull comes in, obviously. But yeah, they beat Lash's ass pretty good after the match. It begs the question where Disco disappeared to afterward. I mean, I think he got taken out, but he seemed to be taken out for quite a bit. But yeah, they obviously take him out in the bag, and then they drop him in the parking lot, and he when they do that, he seemingly escapes. So, but yeah, another not terrible match, but just didn't really get explained all that well. I don't feel like on commentary, and Just a match that, if you're not into these guys, kind of like we are, I don't think you have a ton of investment in.
Yeah, but like we love like Vito and them. I love them being bumbling fools, but like, why even have this match? Like,
Just wait till
the
Sunday.
Starrcade tag match. Yeah, like stop having gimmick matches for fucking gimmick matches' sake. Like, we'll go over it tonight when we do the stats, but it's just mind-boggling how many of these weren't even announced. Logan, like Oklahoma gets some ring, power bomb versus suplex match, a no DQ match for no reason. It's just so stupid. But This leads us to match 12. We got 3 more matches, 12, 13, and 14, guys. It's Paul Orndorff versus Creative Control in a handicap match. Paul Orndorff comes out. Creative Control comes out. I just want y'all to remember that last Thursday, Creative Control was our tag champions. Just keep this in mind. So I'm still going to call them 1 and 2 because I'm never going to learn their fucking names. It's like the Naturals, okay? Never going to learn them, okay?
Poor Naturals.
Or like FTR, where it's FTR bald and gun. So there you go. Okay, that's how I know. So Paul and Creative Control 1 start. We get a collar and elbow tie up. Then Creative Control 1 gets a punch. Paul starts throwing punches and knees. This brings in Creative Control 2, and he gets beat down like the other Creative Control 1. Paul drop kicks Creative Control 1 and hits a nice knee lift. Creative Control 2 comes back in and hits him with a back body drop. And the Creative Control comes in and gets beat down himself with the back body drop. This is all Paul Orndorff. He's dropping elbow and then hits other Creative Control member. Paul's choking Creative Control 2 with a rope he brought in. Creative Control 1 comes in and kicks Paul. Creative Control 2 slams Paul and then hits an elbow. Creative Control 2 grab the rope and is choking Paul with the rope. This brings down Arn and Larry. Larry takes out one of Creative Control. I don't know which one. Arn's talking to the ref, but when the Creative Control comes over to him, Arn kicks him, and then Paul hits a pile driver and he wins. And then Slick Johnson runs down, who wasn't the ref, and says due to the interference, the ref says Paul is DQ'd. He reverses the decision. So Slick Johnson, as we've seen, is the powers that be's ref. And while this is happening, someone has a sign that says, "Quick, someone turn it to Raw." So that they've killed the crowd. I will say the crowd started out so hot tonight, Logan, and after right now, until the main event, it's just fucking dead. You could hear anything. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah. It definitely got less hype throughout the night. I think they were pretty into it at the beginning of the show, and then I definitely agree throughout the night with all the bullshit finishes and stuff like that they definitely lost a little bit of their passion. And just, trotting out all these old fucks like Orndorff, like, he had his time, but I just don't think he's somebody in 1999 is coming out to see, per se. So, but yeah, like he does win seemingly for a little bit, but they pull the Creative Control bullshit again, and he ends up losing by the reversal of decision. But, yeah, I mean, that's almost the problem with these Nitros is, these, kind of short, bullshitty kind of matches with the bullshit finishes. They're not all that bad when they have the time to do them and the time that they're given or whatever, but it's just the adding of the bullshit finishes and the reversals of decisions and all that kind of stuff. It starts to pile up on you and it gets obnoxious after a while. And obviously the crowd felt that way because obviously they'd kind of turned on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I was starting to turn on the show too, and I'm like, the crowd's like dead. It's like a funeral.
Yeah.
So we see Hall and Nash warming up, and then we see Piper again for like the 5th time tonight, swinging the chair around and just ranting dumb shit. Like, it's not even worth me saying. Like, that's how just dumb it was. We have a commercial break, and then we see Vito and Bull. They come back to the body bag, and they're worried if the person is breathing. They open it up, and we find out it's Norman Smiley in the body bag, hiding from Ming, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have Kurt Hennig versus Roddy Piper. 15 minutes left in the show. Kurt comes out, and then Piper comes out. 13 minutes left in the show. Piper runs in, and Kurt is beating Piper's ass with a chair, and then Kurt punches him and then rams the chair into Piper's gut. Piper reverses, an Irish whip and slams Kurt in the chair. Piper grabs a chair and is hitting Kurt with the chair, but Kurt blocks it. And then like Piper hits Kurt with the chair and he goes over the top rope. Kurt walks out and Piper wins by count out with Kurt giving him the 2 middle fingers. We now have 12 minutes left. We go backstage. Tenay says that Bret Hart has been attacked. Bret does not look like he's attacked Logan. He looks like he's laying on the couch, like hungover, how I would look hungover. That's how he looks. After like a mania trip, he was just like looking all hungover on the couch. And Goldberg says someone jumped him and the trainer is checking Bret for a concussion. He should probably check him after Sunday. So we have 10 minutes left. The Outsiders come out. Outsiders versus Goldberg and Bret ? For the tag titles. Nash gets on the mic and it says, looks like Bret Hart won't make it out. And Bret sustained some injury in the back. Nash says, we did you a favor at Starrcade, Goldberg. Come out and hand us the belt. You owe us that much. Goldberg screams, Bret, let's go. And then he takes off with the belts. 8 minutes left. Goldberg comes out. He does his whole fucking entrance, guys. No sense of urgency at all. Goldberg's in the ring now. We got 7 minutes left. Outsiders reach for the belts. Goldberg throws down the belts and then clotheslines the Outsiders. Goldberg press slams Hall and kicks Nash. He punches Hall and Hall slides out of the ring. Hall's back in the ring with 6 minutes left. We get a collar and elbow tie up. Hall hits Goldberg with some shoulder blocks. Then Goldberg does an FU to Hall and hits Hall with kicks and a pump handle slam that gets 2. Hall tags to Nash. Nash is in the ring staring down Goldberg. We get a collar and elbow tie up now, and Nash gets the elbow and the knee lift. Goldberg hits a shoulder tackle. Goldberg hits a scoop slam, easy for me to say, and gets 2. Goldberg hits forearm on Nash. Goldberg hits Hall, who was on the apron, but he walks into a big boot. We tag to Hall, and he's just hitting Goldberg, like smacks him in the back of his head. And they have Goldberg in the corner, and they double teaming. Hall's choking Goldberg on the ropes. Nash hit. What's the move like when like he's on the middle of a rope and Nash runs and like drops his whole body on him?
It's just like an elbow drop, I think. I don't.
No, it's not even an elbow. Like he just drops his leg on him. Like Goldberg's like resting on the ropes.
I can't remember the name right now. I won't lie to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Neither could I. I said Nash hits move on the ropes, but that's what it is. We get a tag to Hall. Hall breaks Goldberg's eyes, and Hall hits the choke slam. This gets it 2. Bret Hart runs down and starts fighting the Outsiders. He hits a Russian leg sweep on Nash. He puts a sharpshooter on Nash, but this allows Hall to hit Bret. Goldberg then kicks Hall. Nash has the WCW title and goes to hit Bret, but Bret hits him with the punch. Goldberg spears Hall. Bret Hart just goes down for no reason. Nash pins Bret with his feet on the ropes while Goldberg was doing the jackhammer. And we had new tag champs despite Bret Hart not being a legal man. A real fuck finish. I read on the Observer, Logan, that Nash was supposed to hit Bret with the world title, but Nash missed. So then they said, then Nash hit Bret in his knee, and that's what made him go down. Nash even had his feet on the ropes when he did this, but it's just a real chaotic ending. This brings the ending to a Nitro, guys, that had 14 matches and 0 had clean finishes. Logan, give me your thoughts on this final match before we run down the rest of Nitro and get these good people out of here today.
Yeah, the match was actually given a good bit of time, grand scheme of things, from what we're used to kind of watching. So, giving it time is like 7 minutes as opposed to the 2 or 3 that a lot of the matches get. So it seemed like they actually get to fight a little bit, but Goldberg dominated early, and then like the Outsiders used some cheating to kind of get the advantage and wear him down a little bit. And then obviously Bret comes out with his quote unquote injury. He looked like me after the WrestleMania 17 Summit pod that we did back in the day. That's about how I was feeling after we did that pod and had drank throughout most of it. But then they obviously cheat, targeting Bret's injury. The seemingly his knee had been taken out. I mean, it wasn't even the world title; it was a tag team title. He hit him with the tag title in the leg. But he definitely whiffs with a title shot to the face at one point, and I guess he has to kind of splurge and kind of figure it out, or kind of call a an audible and kind of smack him in the smack him in the leg and kind of knock him down. But yeah, like you said, not even the legal man. The referees had a bad night on this one for sure. I've probably not been calling them out enough for it, but yeah, I think Charles Robinson was the ref in this one, and he deserves to be reprimanded for how badly he performed in this one. And the guy earlier that counted the pinfall where Medusa was completely in the ropes the entire time. But yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and give the most absurd award to the fact that there were as many matches as there were, and there were absolutely 0 clean finishes. So, but yeah, just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. That's what I already had filled in, Logan. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So as the show goes off the air, the Outsiders celebrating. No, still nothing with Goldberg and Bret. We'll have to see if Thunder brings us anything because that's an A- show now as well. But let's run down the champs here. I know, right? They'll probably like shake hands or something, or like share an ice cream cone. World champs Bret Hart still. U.S. champ Scott Hall. Tag champs are the Outsiders. Cruiserweight champ is Evan Courageous, and the Hardcore champ is Norman Smiley. As we said, the most absurd was no clean finishes. I said what was good. I'll say that Chris Benoit and Jeff Jarrett match and then brawling. What was bad? Bret and Goldberg feeling flat and pointless gimmick matches.
Yeah, I mean, and just the 0 clean finishes would be. I mean, obviously we've already called that out, but yeah, that's bad. Obviously, that doesn't need to be. Yeah, and just bad build to pay-per-view matches could have been better.
Which is your biggest pay-per-view of the year. So, as we said, 14 matches, 0 clean finishes, 14 non-clean finishes or non-finishes, 0 pole matches tonight. We're still stuck at 3, Logan. I'm a little upset. We had 7 gimmick matches tonight. That raises us to 54. We had 3 guitar shots tonight. That brings us to 14. We had 56 different things happen tonight. That's record 69 might hold through because we only got a couple more 3-hour nitros. We are now at 20 different titles have changed hands with the tag title changing. Are you smarter than Vince Russo's WCW? A resounding yes for us tonight.
Yeah, we could have built a better pay-per-view than this. And yeah, 20 title changes, and 7 of them have been the World Tag Team title changes. So I pointed that out last time, but just think about that. Like, that's like, a little less than half of them, but like still almost close to half of the world title changes have been all the tags.
Don't worry, the world title is about to take off.
Oh yeah,
in 2000. So yeah, Logan, thank you for being on once again. Thank you all for listening. Check us out in 2 weeks as we will deal with the Thunder go home. I don't know what's going to happen with this Thunder. I doing my best not to read the Observers, so like I'm just as shocked as Logan is when we're watching these, and I'm just like, oh my god! Like I know what happens at Starrcade with one of the matches, of course, but I'm interested to see how we get there. For Scott Shufflett, he's Logan Crossland. Thank you all, and have a nice day.
Things you know, so baby, listen carefully while I sing my comeback song. Your love, she said she'd never turn.